it was like funny, like 10 years between them, I guess. And I think 1931 was born Korchnoi. It's funny, everything is like 10 years later. What, I was disconnected or what happened? You did not hear probably what I say about anything, but okay. Can somebody Google? I guess Max Aver was born in 1901, and Botvinnik 10 years later, 1911. Then 10 years later was born Smyslov, 1921, and 10 years later was born Korchnoi, 1931. Crazy. This I have remember. Yeah, it was funny. 10 years different between them. It's not like 1901, then 1910 or 12, and not 1922 or like 10, 10, 10, 10, like that. Very nice. So in this game in 64, it means that Botvinnik was 54, no, 53, and Smyslov 43. We remember that Smyslov was long time keeping a big practical French. He also played in challenger match against Kasparov, if you remember. So let's see what happened here. C4 by Botvinnik, knight f6, knight c3, e5, g3, the English variation, classical, bishop b4, bishop g2, castle, a3. I never liked such a moves, and he actually says, Botvinnik says that this is a loss of important tempo, and it was much better to play knight f3 or e4 here. Yeah, very strange that Botvinnik played like that. Bishop c3, because black anyway will exchange it, so he just pushes to do it. And now e4, strong move by Smyslov. He immediately uses that white lost the time. Also was possible, of course, rook e8 here with following e4, because after e4 then c6 and d5, so a3 is very passive move, very loss of time. So but he plays e4 because now this knight has to be developed on the side here. That was the point. Reduce it. Thank you for following. Polter Hill. Welcome. This book of Mikhail Botvinnik. He has 3 books of his career. Like from when he was 12 years old. 12 years old in 1923 till 1946, and 1946 till 1943, I guess, or 48, then till 1956, and then from 1956, this is, no, from 1957 till 1970. So whole his career, it calls analytical and critical works, when he annotated his selected games, and also speak about his biography, some general advices. So it's very instructive book. I don't know how many times I read it, many times, and always find something new. So e4, very good move, reduces chances for this knight. He plays knight h3 here. Probably he did not want to play d3 here because of rook e8. And of course d, these pawns will be forever weak. And knight h3, anyway he has to play, so he decided to first develop and then piece later, or maybe f3. Rook e8, natural move by Smyslov. He supports pawn, and here black often plays then d6 and even b6, bishop b7 is a plan. Castle was played, d6, knight goes to f4, and b6 actually. Yeah, he played b6 and f3. A dubious plan, he said. So this is a Botvinnik. In the opening, he don't play well. And much simpler and better was to play d3. Probably Smyslov would play bishop b7, knight b7 with excellent play for black. But he played f3, and now Smyslov plays. What do you think? What was the idea? What was why this move was not good? Yes, on English it's also. Did I translate it well from Russian? I call it. I just directly translate like analytical and critical works of Botvinnik. It's 3 books of different years of his career. Its English will be like that or not? Okay, thank you. Thank you for following, by the way. I am just. It's incredible that I managed to translate at least one thing correctly in English. Yeah, from 1923 till 1941. From 1941 should be till 1957. And 1957 till 1970 when he stopped to play. From 1956, I guess. From 1923 till 1941 till 1956. Second book, I guess. Ingi, how are you doing, man? Hello. Yeah, for me it's extremely hard to stream in English because unfortunately I never read any book on English language. So my lexicon are very limited. By Russian, I know Russian perfectly, so it's I can annotate games much more original way, much more better way. But unfortunately, I cannot do it in English. For example, Peter Swidler are extremely good. I think he will be very good annotator, and he is because he knows English very well. Have you ever think about writing? Not yet, Ingi. When you memorize your memorize opening well, when you invest a lot of energy in it over the board without computer, when you analyze lot, because for example I remember still I remember my game in 2003, 17 years ago. I had game against Evgeny Barev, and I found then very interesting novelty in Karokan. It was worldwide world known famous game when I sacrificed d5 pawn. You can find it, and I still remember all analyses because I was analyzing that interesting game and not game, I mean opening, about 10 days or 2 weeks, something like that. So I still remember everything till the last move, and even more maybe because he resigned in the situation when I knew a bit more. That was funny. Oof, yes, thank you. So after f3, e3, very strong positional idea here. This was the point. Look at this beautiful move. The point that if he takes, these pawns became so weak. So we will go bishop a6, knight c6, knight a5, and collect these pawns, and bishop also will be very passive here. So after e3, Botvinnik doesn't have any better moves than d3. So support this pawn and keep structure like this structure pawns are connected to each other. This is very important. And also he has in mind to maybe attack this pawn somehow. He missed this e3 idea. And he thinks that still, despite that after d bishop a6 black would recapture the pawn, still he says that maybe this was more preferable. Probably he means e4 move here, bishop c4, and I don't know, maybe knight d3 move or a4, I don't know, but I don't like this position for white. For obvious reason, during the game he also didn't play it. So d3 he played, but now this pawn is so strong, it's like divides two flanks from each other, and it's very hard for white to coordinate the pieces. Bishop b7 played by Smyslov, control this square. Queen e1. As I understood, he wants to play g4 and bring this queen in the game from this side. Knight d7. Smyslov's play, it's so smooth, so simple. You see how he play. g4. He says that white has to, with all costs, try to create some counterplay here. Otherwise they will just lost the breeze. No oxygen for the pieces. h6 played by Smyslov. Stop this g5. h4. He continues assault. Knight goes to f8. Queen g3. So Botvinnik does maximum. Sometimes maybe he wants to play bishop h3 and then knight g2 and attack this pawn. Yeah, he's creating counterplay here. He also not allows now black to comfortably continue play. That's why he start to concretely play here. Knight g6. Black not only defended well kingside, but also start counterplay in this position. So if he exchange, it will be just positionally, strategically lost position, because you never can win this pawn. Queen e7 we can support, and slowly black will improve the position. And in case of, for example, if he would play in this position, what I want to say, in case of h5, yeah, also he would take and then play this queen e7 here, and then this knight can be also transferred here or here. He played knight h3. He wants to keep this knight for defense. Knight h7, this was Smyslov's idea. He attacking all of a sudden this pawn. h5. Knight h4. Bishop h1. And f5. We see that how energetically black is playing. So Smyslov sees that these pieces are out of game, and he has more pieces on the king side, and also with supported by this strong bishop, and he wants to finish game with direct attack here. Bishop b2. Look at this ugly move. Only way to somehow connect pieces. And maybe Botvinnik wants to actually sacrifice this pawn and then c4 and open it, in my opinion. And now, finally, it was first moment when probably Smyslov played inaccuracy. Queen f6 he played here. And he could keep a clear advantage after active move knight g5. Because he cannot play queen h4, do we have knight f3 check, and then we take this queen here. Also idea, if we play some random move a4, obviously exchange, and then play f4. And totally kill, completely kill everything here. Then queen g5 is coming, and in future maybe we can even play c5, then g6, open ag, king g7, rook h8, h5, and just kill. Look at this bishop. Look at these bishops. Once I play c5, game is over. So probably he would play knight a4 to keep this knight. Yeah, to keep at least knight in the game. And now queen f6. I don't know why he played rook b8. Why not play? I mean, he offered rook b8 here. I don't know why. What is the point? Why rook b8? Anybody knows? Why not immediately queen f6? Ah, this is the point. In case of queen f6, we will take, I guess. And this is hangs. Yeah, this is hangs now. Yeah, this is the point. This is the point. That's why rook b8, tricky move. And now in case of king h2, then queen f6, with a big advantage for black here. For example, we cannot play knight d5 because we take, and f4. Look at this position. We again cannot take because of knight f3, and we take, and you have to play something like this. Look at this. Terrible position. Maybe it's actually some mating idea. 1 second. How we can mate? I wanted like knight f5, then get rid from this knight, and queen h4, queen g3 mate, but unfortunately it's not possible, right? To give mate like that. Would be funny to finish game like this. Yeah. Maybe knight f7 with either knight f5 here. King h3 would be only move. Yeah, b5 also, yeah. But instead, he played a first inaccuracy in game. He played queen f6 here. And now, Botvinnik immediately uses opportunity to complicate things. f4, strong move, control this square. And also he exchanged this passive bishop. So after f4, bishop h1. And also was interesting to suck the exchange after fg, bishop b7, gh, bishop e8, rook a8. And would be very nice compensation for black. Yeah, later we play rook f8, knight f5, queen e6, knight f6, and so on. Or queen f7, knight f6, attack this pawn. Also c5 kills this bishop. But he played bishop h1, king h1. No, sorry. After bishop h1, that's why fg was interesting, because he has this g5. Probably this Smyslov missed when he played queen f6. He forget about g5 intermediate, very important move. Yeah, Botvinnik also thinks that he blundered this idea. Hg, fg. Oh, suddenly it's black is in trouble now because knight is unprotected so far. Queen e5 only move, queen h4. And now all suddenly white's attack became realistic here. So Smyslov obviously just forget about g5 move. So bishop c6, rook f4. And now he played very, very good move. So we see that if okay, first tell me what do you think? What happened here? We see how with one inaccuracy and another blunder, he all suddenly in a position where he has to save the game. What to play? What do you think? What Smyslov did here? Black is moving, of course. Smyslov is black. First ask yourself what white wants here. So white wants to bring this rook here. Rook f1, attack this pawn, and then bishop c1, or first d4, then bishop c, also win this e3 pawn. And also attack after rook f1, rook f8, g6 and rook f5. The point of rook f4 is double rook, attack this pawn. And attack on the king side. For example, if you play some random moves, imagine a6, rook f1. This, I guess, it would be an extremely hard position for black already here. Because they have a very passive pieces. Also, g6 is coming here all the time. c5 also very interesting move here. c5, bc, and then g6. Also would be quite unpleasant position, I guess. Knight f8, and then try to knight g5, knight f7, h6, and you know, it's very strong attack. Also c4 all the time comes. That's why he played g6 here, very strong move in this position. g6, top g6 pawn. And the point that if Botvinnik doesn't take, for example, he played rook f1, after knight f8, he will never will have in future opportunity to take it here because knight will come. So g6, stop this move. Yeah, and after g6, hg, knight f8. He wants to take it here, and queen h6. Botvinnik played, protect a pawn. Smyslov uses this knight, it's a little bit out of game, and he plays queen g7. What else? Nothing else in this position probably. 1 second, why not? If we play rook e6, what would Botvinnik play here? Let me understand. Ah, then d4 is winning. Ah, d4 is move. Look at this move. All suddenly. And then we exchange the queens and d5 fork. Yeah, rook doesn't works. Thank you for following, Fisher Galiago. Yeah, that's why he played queen g7 here. Try to exchange queens and also win this pawn back. This is how Smyslov is trying to save game now. Rook f5, it's very hard psychologically when you have advantage and playing for victories and change your mind to play for draw. Knight g6. This bishop is strong still. Rook a f1. Rook f8. What else? Because bishop d7 loses immediately after exchange, and then check and take it. Rook f8, so he neutralizing these rooks. Rook f6 by Botvinnik. Queen h6. So black defended the direct threats, but now they need to defend position and game where they are pawned down. So let's see, and also potentially this is weak, yeah. When it was in middle game power, now it's potentially weakness after bishop c1. So gh was played by Botvinnik, rook f6, king h7, protect here, attacking this. Bishop c1 here. He says that it was not so clear to give check here. Because of king h6. Rook c7 attacking the bishop. Knight e5. And after d4, he has knight c4 attacking bishop. And black also has counter chances by their own. Yeah, after d4, I guess instead of what he said, knight c4, rook g8 actually wins the game, I guess. There's no defense now. f1, and then bishop g2 check, and black is winning here. After bishop h2 is a mate. Yeah, so definitely he don't go for it. He plays bishop c1, strong move. Yeah, now this pawn becomes weakness. This passive bishop, which whole game was staying like statist on b2, all suddenly is decisive force in this game. Rook g8 was played. Knight g5. Strong move, because after king h6, bishop e3, g file is closed, so king is in safety. King h5, not allow any discovery check. Rook f7, attacking here, also some kind of checks maybe. Rook e8, Slow attacks the bishop. Rook h7 check, king d4, king goes to f2. As I understood, he did not play f2 here because he didn't want to allow this exchange here. That's why, like this. In case of check, I guess he will transfer king to the center. Very important to keep this active rook, which attack this pawn. Yeah, now rook e3 would be totally lost position, hopeless endgame after take on 7, also take here. Yeah, white will win this endgame without any problem. That's why slow plays knight e7. I guess rook e7 actually doesn't work. We exchange and then win this pawn. And without knights on the board, black would have good chances for draw, but with knights, they don't. That's why only move is knight e7, yeah, to cover this file here. So after knight e7, he plays knight e6. Also, king is in danger here. This pawn is in danger. Knight f5, control this square, also not allowed take because of pin. And knight d4, strong move here, or suddenly. And now he exchanged knights to try with hope that it will be opposite color of bishops, and his chances increases. But probably that was also incorrect. In case of knight e3, anyway, white would have advantage. After rook g7, very important check here. King f4, and one more good check. And the point that this rook will cut off this king from the main clash in the queen side. We cannot go king e5 because we take this and then take this. So would be move after rook f7, king g4. Then we take knight c6. Knight d1 check, attacking here. King goes to e1. Knight takes on c3, attacking. And king d2, strong move, because e4 is mistake. After knight e4, d, rook e4, and with good chances, probably draw already. That's why king d2, strong move, forcing knight e2. No, knight e2 is bad because we take on c7 and eliminate one of these more pawn here. Knight b1 probably is a 1 second. Knight b1 is a hope, using that rook attacks here and also this. But after that would be king d1 here. This is not so convincing. After knight e3, king b2, the knight c4 dc, and rook e2 check. That's why king d1 first. This must be protected. And in case of king knight c3, then king c2, knight e2, and rook c7. And white has a clear advantage here, maybe decisive. This is weak. In case of a5, we go after this pawn, and this is weak. King is very far. We see how a good analyze. Winslow probably felt it even without calculation, that this is probably lost. Also, rook e3 is bad because knight a5 and this is attacked. So he played knight d4. After knight d4, cd. In future, we'll play d5, and then maybe we'll create e4, d4, e5, like more passes here. Rook c8. What else? We need to protect. D e5, gaining more space. Bishop a4, bishop d4. With obviously idea e4, king e3, and e5 later. After a bishop d4, he played a6, probably with idea to play c5 or c6, and this will not hang. e4 and c5, a blunder by Mislov, and after next move he will resign. And it was made in home analyze, by the way. But still, the game was hopeless. He said, after bishop c2, we play king e3. In case of check, we give, in case of rook f8, we give first check and then take it. And there is no defense, yeah, e5 is coming. But he played c5 here. And after bishop f6, yeah, he simply resigned here, because there is mate. Look at this mate, guys. By the way, after bishop c2, it was same idea. So only move would be king g5 here, but with quite simply improved position, king e3, then e5, winning c7 pawn and winning the game. Yeah, this is how Botvinnik had dubious position after opening, and how after one or two inaccuracies he outplay slow. Yes, I really like this game. Let me find something. No, Lazarus effect. I did not see yet. Okay, let's see one more game for tonight. It's really very late, almost 3 a.m. and very interesting game here. Yeah, very instructive. Very instructive game, actually. And this game he lost, by the way. Let's see how he lost to Grigorich. So, guys, Botvinnik is white against Grigorich. Betazar, Yugoslavian family master. Each was played in which year? Same, 1964 in Olympiad. 4. Kings. But yeah, Grigorich was very, very strong. So d4, Botvinnik played, knight f6, c4, g6. Grigorich main weapon was King's Indian usually, but now he plays against Botvinnik Grünfeld. We just seen a game against Fischer, knight f3, bishop g7, queen b3. dc, queen c4 it was one of the main weapon of Botvinnik, but he played bishop f4, bishop g7, and he played e3 here. He says that he just mixed up the moves order. He wanted to play knight f3 and he played e3 instead. Castle, rook c1 and c5 here. dc and bishop e6, well-known theoretical position. Thank you for following. Knight f3 was played by Botvinnik. Knight c6, knight g5. He says that he played this move automatically here. And he says that probably the best move here, according to Botvinnik, would be simple bishop e2. But then knight e4 with very good play for black. So this opening is good for black, according to Botvinnik. So he played knight g5, bishop g4. Of course, bishop g4, he said. So black is seeking a big complications because they are perfectly developed and ready for actions in the center. And white is behind of development, we see. Now he should play more safe move, bishop e2 here. But he plays f3. And e5. Grigorich does not go with bishop into the counter-attack in the center. Bishop g3 by Botvinnik here. What else? Because fg, ef, these black squares became very weak here. ef, rook e8, and so on. So he keeps this important bishop with bishop g3, and d4 he played. With very big energy, Grigorich plays. And now, Botvinnik realized that he's in trouble, and he decided to play endgame to avoid any attack on the king. So he played fg. He did not say any comments. Probably after knight e4 would be knight e4, then some bishop f5, queen f5 is coming. But he played fg, dc, queen d8, rook fd8. Okay, let's see from the black side this position. So how Grigorich will win this game? Let's see now. Rook c3, of course not bc when these triple pawns will be all weak. So rook c3, otherwise this pawn becomes very strong. After rook c3, h6 here. White has a material advantage, but they have worse position because of pieces. Look at this. So knight f3, knight e4, attacking rook, attacking this knight, and also this pawn, the bishop. I mean, rook goes to c1. He played on knight c5. I guess knight g3 also was good here. G and then e4, then attacked here. But he take on c5 with idea e4. He wants to keep this knight on the board, probably with ideas knight b4, attacking here, also some forks in this square. Bishop e2. What else? Botvinnik cannot do anything here. e4. And knight d4 he decided to play here. At least he give another pawn, but he at least simplificate little bit position, he said. I guess after knight d2, knight b4 would be hopeless position already. This is check, bishop b2 is coming. Or also we can start with bishop b2 actually, because rook b1, bishop c3, rook c2 loses after knight b4, rook b2, and then fork. That's why this move is forced. Moves like knight g1 or knight h4 we don't comment. So knight d4. He takes knight d4 here, ed, and takes with bishop. Not allow castle. Also this under attack. So 4, 2, 3. So we see that Grigorich in the opening he sacrificed 2 pawns, and now he black has equal balance of material and very active pieces and much better position. b3 was played. Yes, Grigorich very strong. Bishop e3 was played by Grigorich. I guess in this position Botvinnik didn't play b4 because of knight a4 in my opinion. Then bishop c3 is a threat. Also knight is coming here. That's why he decided to play more modest move b3. This after b3, bishop e3 by Grigorich, rook cd1. I guess after rook c2, maybe knight d3 actually can be dangerous. Probably this position, or maybe not. Like rook c3, I have. So what was the idea? Rook c2. Let me understand this. Grigorich definitely had something in mind, but what? Maybe double rooks on d file, but then bishop f2. What was the idea of bishop e3 and why Botvinnik played rook d1? Why not rook c2? I don't see how black immediately uses this. Should be something, of course. Yeah, I mean, you mean this position? This bishop d3, ed, rook c3, rook d7, but king d1 I play. I block this pawn, then rook e1, and I have counterplay. This pawn also theoretically became weak. I think knight d3 is a bit cheap decision here. But why he played bishop e3? What he had in mind? Let us understand. Maybe rook d7 he wanted to play. Bishop f2 looks like only move. Exchange. Knight d3 now? What is this move? Ah, no. Now knight d3 is winning actually. Bishop f2 we cannot play. Because take. The point is that after rook c3 we give this check, then we take and promote. So rook d7, modest move I guess. We added double. What is next move of white here? Aha, this is a big advantage, yeah. That's why probably Botvinnik decided to exchange at least a pair of rooks, but this rook will be very passive here. Hello, Abdul. Yeah, this is my last game of this stream and I go to sleep now. It's 3 a.m. here. It's not even evening, it's late night. So, what happened after this? He played rook d1. Bishop d1, yeah? In case of king d1, then check and penetrate. So bishop d1 he played. Rook d8. That's why I didn't want rook d1, because this rook is active and this is passive. The rook on c2 at least was defending, but okay, I don't know. It probably just it was very dangerous already for white. I'm not in UAE, I'm in Georgia. We are on same time zone with UAE. Bishop e2 was played because bishop c2 or rook d2 here. So bishop e2. And after bishop e2, a5, strong move. It's actually not strong, he said. a5 is a waste of time, actually. Probably Grigorich, we know that he was a big fan of King's Indian. And there is a traditional move, a5, when knight here to not allow b4, but much faster he could win with knight e6 move here. Rook d2 would be big mistake in this position because of bishop f2, or suddenly. according to Botvinnik. But 1 second, is not it anyway winning? Check. Understand? Only move this and here, you here. Ah, yeah, not winning. Rook a2, then we play rook 1. Yeah, this would be mistake. That's why this position, knight e6 would be strong move. And after knight e6, there is a threat, rook d2 here. For example, rook f1, we play rook d2, bishop f2, then knight d4. This was threat. But what if this? I don't understand this comment. There is nothing for black here. 1 second. So after rook f1, why black is winning here? Maybe check. Check king f2. b1. Ah, yes, but check. This is very strong check. Yeah. f2, then check. You cannot go here because of knight d4 take, and because of this, anyway, knight d4, and then e2. Smashing white's position. Yes. Yeah. That's why knight e6 was strong. He played a5, waste of time. And h4 by Botvinnik. Maybe he wants to connect rook from here. Knight e6 and now rook h3, yes. And now white in time to kick away this bishop from active position after bishop e5 or bishop h2. That was the point. Bishop c1 he played. Bishop e5, knight f4. He has to exchange. What else? And c5 he played. Because white has to activate this bishop, otherwise black will play b6 and no moves for white. Then king will go to center. Then in future we'll create this f5 pawn with the smash. Also rook d2 is coming. c5, try to put it here. Rook d2. This is a rook is very passive. So he played rook c3 and sacrificed pawn for activity. Because he uses that this square is busy with rook now. So rook c3, rook takes on a2, king f2, rook b2. And h5 he played. And he said probably this was the first good move for white in this game. So he wants to take hg, fg, and now black pawns are not so good like this. That's why he's forcing to take on h8, on h5. And he will bring this another pawn here, control this square. He played king g7 because after f5, not allow g4, then c6 would be possible. And after rook c6, white pieces all suddenly became more active. Yeah, rook becomes active here. Why Grigorich not allows this? He plays king g7. Now c6 he takes, and this is false. That's why g4 was played. Control this square. Yeah, he not allows this f5, f4 in future. Bishop g5. Still positions extremely bad. Pawn down, and also black pieces are more active. He wants now penetrate here. Yes. King f1, rook b1 check, king g2, bishop d2 he played. Black is winning another pawn after bishop d2. And it was very hard to keep for Grigorich against this temptation. But bishop on g5 was much more ideal, he said. It was maybe better don't do it and win this pawn. I don't know. But he don't say how black should continue here. Maybe rook b2, king f1, king f6 actually. After c6 we can maybe sacrifice this. Go here. And it looks like completely winning position. Yeah, bishop goes here, then we go king f3. I don't know. But Grigorich played instead bishop d2 here. He played rook c4. e3. So c6, bc, rook 6, and he takes on b3. Rook a6, only move, otherwise this pawn will go forward. So rook a6, rook has to be behind. Rook b8, king f3, rook d8. And in this moment, game was adjourned. And everybody in his team was asking Botvinnik which move he write in this position, and they was hoping that g5 he wrote, and they thought that it leads to the draw, but instead he played king e4. He write down, and next day they will continue with king e4 move. The point that if this rook will get this square, white's position is already desperate, because this controls important squares, this, and this. So king e4 he played. Rook d4 was the idea, yeah. And after rook king e4, rook e8 check, king f4, rook e6. Yeah, so first of all, black is kick away this rook from this active position, which cut off this king, because white cannot exchange. This one of the pawn will promote easily. So rook goes to a8. Rook f6 check. King goes to e4. Rook f2. King d3. That's why not king g3. So far white is holding on first side. King f6. So now the threat is to put king on g5, rook on f6, and then penetrate to f2 and easily win the game, because there will be always check threat, and in case rook d8 we push this pawn and distract the rook. Okay, Kes, thank you. Night, man. Rook b8. No, rook h8 he played, that's why. And king g7 is forced in this position, because king g5 leads to rook g8 check. And after king f4, g5. This was his idea. No, I mean, not this, because of king h4, g5 here, hg, and then this all suddenly becomes very strong. And in case of king f4, then rook h8, and this rook did not have this square. This is under attack. That's why after rook h8, he goes back, rook goes back, and rook f4. A tricky move, he said, because in case of rook a6, he would play rook f6, then rook e6, and this king will go forward here. That's why he played rook b8 in this position. Rook f6. So he did not find how to improve his position. He goes back to position where they've been already. King e4, rook goes to c6. And another tricky move. In case of king f4, there will be rook c4 move. And after bishop c4, e2. And in case of king f3, rook d4. This is the ideal square for this rook. But he played rook a8, roll, king f6, rook a7. We see how Botvinnik desperately tries to keep everything under control. So now he's aiming this pawn. And rook e6 check, king f4, not allowed to activate king. And now in this position, during the analyze, he was afraid of rook d6 move with either rook d4. And in case of king e4, rook d8, double exclamation mark. Not allow this rook e8, rook h8 anymore. And white is all suddenly in zugzwang in this position. because if king goes, then rook penetrates to d4. In case of bishop c4, there would be check on e8, king f3, and then rook e7, protect on, and then king penetrates, or even can go here. And in case of rook a6 here, then simply king g5, and again king or penetrates there, or you have to go king f3 and then rook d4. This is a plan of black. And last chance actually would be in this position to play rook a6 check, king g5, and rook a7, attacking this pawn. Now rook e8 check, king f3, rook e6, rook f7, rook f6, rook f6, king f6 would be a draw all suddenly. If black will push this pawn, they will win. But bishop d1 we do not allow. King e5 to go to queen side and promote. Then bishop a4, double exclamation mark here. Look at this move. Only here. And after bishop a4, bishop c1 here. The point that after king d4, they have this g5 move. And after ag, h6. And all suddenly after king d3, this is very important check here. This was that's why it was a beautiful move, bishop a4, because now king c2 leads to h7, distract bishop, and we take this, and it's draw. We will give bishop for this, go here, and once you play here, we promote and take this pawn. Very beautiful idea. But after bishop a4, black could try play bishop c1 to give tempo for white, and bishop c2 only move, double exclamation mark, only here. And after king d4, then g5 again, hg, h6, bishop b2, h7, and this also leads to draw because no more d square, and we take this pawn. It was this idea, bishop d1, bishop a4, bishop c2, was suggested by Geller. We see how Geller was helping him with Fischer, for example, and in this game, and many times. And in case of black, after rook a7 move, how it was, rook d8, rook a6, king g5, rook a7. If they play rook e8 check, no, not rook e8, sorry, rook f8 hit this position to protect this pawn, also f5 somewhere. Then king f3, after f5, rook g7 check, and after king f6, because king h4, gf, rook f5, king e4, this king is cut off from the f file, g file. So, and in case of f5, rook g7, king f6, then would be rook g6 check, king e5, and then g5 all suddenly, ag, rook g5. And this pawn gives white some chances to survive this game. But black decides another line. So we go back to position when king was on f4, this position. And instead of rook d6 and rook d8, beautiful idea, he played bishop b4 here. Grigory thought a long time and he played this. King f3. Rook goes to e5. The point that rook protects this pawn and wants to get free this bishop, and Grigory's idea to play king g7, I guess, and then bring this bishop here and protect this pawn and this. And then later probably he wants to bring this king in the game to the queen side. So let's see what happens here. King f4 he played. Bishop d6. King f3. White has to wait, nothing to do. Bishop e7. They repeat. And he played king g7, strong move here. And Botvinnik said this was a new position of Zugzwang here, which he did not find in analyze. He was thinking about 20 minutes here, and he calculated one drawish variation with many moves. Bishop c4. He was thinking that it's drawish during the game. Bishop e7. The point that now it's a threat. King f6, king g5 in this position, and then f5 and break this pawn and take this one. Bishop e2 he played. So they repeat twice, and finally Grigorich played king f6. But instead of this move, he should play bishop g5, strong move here. And after bishop g5, bishop e4, attacking this pawn, there was incredible idea. King f8, look at this double exclamation mark. So we cannot take on f7 because e2 is promotes here. And in case of rook f7 check, then king e8 here. Now rook a7 is hopeless because of king d8 this position, and we slowly go up here and go here, and white cannot do any counterplay. And in case of king e8 and rook f5, we take on f5, then go king e7, bishop b3, king f6, bishop goes to c2. We need to protect this pawn. King e5, king e2, king f4, but not king d4 here, with either king c3, king b4 and push because of bishop a4. King c3, f6 is a draw because we exchange this pawn to this, and we sacrifice this pawn for this, and here is a light square, we just wait here. But here was king f4 strong move. So the black's idea to go after this pawn first. And king f1, strong move here. And probably this would be a draw anyway here, according to Botvinnik. He thought that it was draw actually. And Grigorich, I think he did not see this endgame, but Botvinnik calculated this kind of line, these ideas, and he thought it will be draw. And he was hoping that after king f3, bishop d1 check, and king f4, bishop c2, king g4 here, attacking this pawn. King e2, king h5, f6. This was his idea because bishop covers this square. And after the game, Geller found the win instead of king f3 in this position. That was a very beautiful idea. Bishop f6 here. And after king e2, bishop d4, king f1, and then king g5. So this bishop controls this and also protects pawn. And after king e2, we again don't take here because f6 is the draw. Exchange this and we sacrifice here. But bishop a7, king f3, bishop c5. Using that bishop is over busy here. If he goes here, we go pawn. If he goes here, this loses. So king e2 only move. And then we take here. And after f6, king g5, f7, and this king in on time to play king f4. And this bishop controls this square. And now these pawns are winning here. Yeah, that would be a beautiful finish of the game, of course. But instead, Yeah, this was really cool. Instead, after bishop e2, he played bishop d6 here. No, sorry, king f6 he played here. This position. King f4 by Botvinnik. And bishop b4. With a trap. In case of rook a6, he would play this. Rook e6 fe. And after king e3, a4. And black is winning very easily here. Yeah, this pawn distracts bishop. Then we push this pawn back. Of course, we push king here. Then we can even transfer bishop. And we get these squares and push this pawn. So white cannot exchange the rooks like this way. So how it was, 1 second. King f6 it was before, and bishop b4. So he plays bishop c4, attacking this pawn with mating idea, so no time for e2 here. And rook e6. Again, it's a trap. If you take this and this with idea taking this, we give check first on d6 here. And then promote. But after this, of course, he plays king f3, controls this square. Rook goes to e6, attacking the bishop. You are welcome. So rook is attacking. We see how Grigorich had winning game after the opening, but he complicated so much things that we have such instructive opposite color bishop and game. It's very hard always to play opposite color of bishops with passive side and active side also, because you active side always have to be be sure when to exchange the rooks, how to convert, and white side as a passive side always have to find a good setup against passers. So it was very hard task for both sides, especially for white. So he plays rook f7. He eliminates this important pawn, king e5, and plays bishop b5, attacking the rook here, and also stop this pawn. And rook c3 played Grigorich. And now he played inaccuracy here. He says that g5 he's seen this idea, but he didn't play because hg, h6, e2. There is nothing else black can do otherwise. This is coming. So e2, king e2, rook h3, h7. And this was a clearly a drawish position according to Botvinnik. Probably he will put this here and rook g7, rook g8. But for some reason he declined to play it. Probably he was tired already. That's why. Thank you for following. And instead he played rook h7 here, like this pawn. Bishop f8 by Grigorich, defending very important pawn here. Rook h8, bishop goes to g7, rook e8, king d4, king protects, this protects. So you see, Botvinnik says that it still was drawish position, and he played rook e6, and these are really a dangerous continuation for white, and much more easy way to make draw would be rook e4 check, king c5 attacking the bishop, and bishop e2 forcing bishop d4. Yes, otherwise we take this pawn. After bishop d4, rook e6, then this attacked. In case of a4, we take it, a3, then rook a6, and then push this pawn. So it will be just draw. So what you ask? From which? Botvinnik, Grigorich. Grigorich was Yugoslavian, Botvinnik Russian world champion, Soviet Union, better say, for that time. So What happened here? 1 second. You're welcome. Instead of this, he played rook e6 instead of rook e4. And after rook e6, rook b3 was played. And he missed a much better continuation, bishop e5. Close this, also controls this. And now rook c2 is a threat. I don't understand what will be after this move. What he had in mind, why this was so strong. Am I tired or what? I don't see what was the idea. Can anybody guess? Why rook c2 is a threat? But rook c2, I will play bishop e2 here. Cover. Maybe rook c8 here. Yeah. Yeah, maybe from here actually. And then g5. Take this. Yeah, maybe it was still winning here. I'm not sure. But this was the best continuation of bishop e5. Instead, he played rook b3 here. And after rook b3, bishop... sorry, what is this? Bishop e2 by Grigorich. And bishop e5 now he played. Yeah, and now he had a time trouble. And he calculated rook h6 move. And after rook b8, he had hallucination. He in his calculation made two moves: rook b8, rook f8, rook f2. Instead, he could play king g2 here, rook f8, and simply bishop f3, and draw. After e4, we stop it with this rook, and this pawn is very dangerous. And instead, what happened here? Yeah, it's actually a good idea what you support. Maybe I'll release this idea later. So after bishop e5, he did not take z5 on h6 because he had hallucination because he made these two moves for black. And he was desperate after that. He played rook e8 in this position. He was definitely tired, probably. And after this clear mistake, possible already to resign position. And after rook h6, shallow floor, showed very beautiful variation. Instead of rook b8, rook b7 much stronger. A double exclamation mark. After king g2, rook f7, bishop f3, and then rook a7. This is the idea. When rook was on 8, this square would be busy. And after rook a7, rook b6, a4, rook b2, a3, rook a2, bishop f4. And probably it would be very hard for white to defend this position. Probably it was lost with good play of black. What a beautiful variation by floor. But I guess after rook b7, maybe some active defense. g5. Sure, but g5. But we have this first. We have this very important check here, forcing king h3. Maybe it's still not. Yes, yes. Very interesting end game. What end game? And now he tired and he played rook e8 here. Big mistake, and now game is over after rook b6. Even more easy was rook b8 here, forcing the exchange. He played rook b6. And game is lost. We already know if he exchange the rooks, for example, here, Then we bring this bishop to g5, protect it here, and simply supports this pawn and promotes. That's why it don't even give this check. You play king g2. After rook, you played rook b2 here, and you played king f1, bishop f6 position. Rook, of course, Igor played rook b2 with the idea after king f3 to switch to this line, of course, forcing to exchange, because then rook f8, rook f2, and this is totally hopeless because of that plan. What I said, this promotes. Why f1 was played, and after king f1 he played bishop f6, because now this is not so effective plan, because king goes to a1, bishop f6, rook c8, bishop g5, rook now 1 second, played this position, rook b8, probably not allowed check, and rook a4, and after rook 6 he played bishop g5. So this is his ideal position for black. This bishop controls both pawns, rook controls this rank, also supports the pawn, and this king go on this side, these sides. The game is over here. Rook e8, king e4. He actually wants to penetrate here and distract rook from queen side, and now a4. Yeah, white resign. Good morning. Yeah, air pitches. I'm going to sleep now. It's 3:35. Yeah, that was very cool game. The point is that we distract this. Yeah, and we go king f4, king g3. Nothing white can do. Okay, guys. Attention. I think it was very cool game. Today was very, very nice. Hello from Greece. Chimera or Calimera, or what I have to do. What I have to time. What about to make some puzzles now? Kidding. No puzzles. Right, guys. Wait. Oh, definitely. Don't go, guys. DM, who was raiding me? Thank you. Raid, but I'm gonna raid and finish stream, but thank you, man. Who was that? Did not see name. Appreciate. Let's raid riches. Raid to raid, yes. Don't go 1 sec. Who's leaving by all this. All right. Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. Hope. Good night, guys.